say we had a little bit of rain with some breaks in the clouds throughout the day before it became mostly cloudy in the evening and at sunset. Now, with tropical moisture being aided by a stationary front to our south, you can expect the same conditions tomorrow for the area. Now, you see that area do you see that the red semicircle and the blue triangle south of us? That's the stationary front being aided by a tropical system in West 94L, which I'm not expecting to form at, at all. But that disturbance is going to pump in some moisture and bring some rainfall totals to the area. Now a flash flood watch has been issued to the areas west across the bay and north of us in Newcastle County due to those forecast totals being up to 2 inches possible with isolated totals around 3 inches. Here in Salisbury, I'm not really expecting a whole lot, maybe an inch as those totals come in. Probably going to be somewhere between half inch and 3/4 of an inch as well. Now, because there is a good chance of rain throughout the day, overcast skies will dominate tomorrow, and because we are near a stationary front, I really don't expect a lot of fluctuations between the temperatures or a variation. So expect those highs and lows to be pretty similar. The forecast high should be in the low to mid 80s, while the low will be in the mid to upper 70s. So again, not a lot of variation with the temperature, unlike folks out west, which I'll get to at the end of this video. Now, although it's going to be pretty pleasant with those temperatures around 80 degrees for most of the day, it is going to be rather humid. Now, because we do have that tropical air mass, those dew points will be pretty high into the mid to upper 70s. Now, we usually can tolerate dew points in the mid 60s, so those tealish colors out west of us. But once it gets to the 70s and the mid 70s, that's when it gets really humid. That's when we start to feel it. So, if you are going to go for a run, do any exercise, it's better to do it in the morning because its dew point values, along with the temperatures, will climb. Those dew points will still be pretty humid in the morning, but if you get that run in, that exercise, that outdoor activity done in the morning when those temperatures are in the mid 70s, you'll be a lot better if you decide to do it in the afternoon, where it's going to feel like those mid to upper 80s counting those dew points. So it is going to be soupy with those heat index values reaching 88 degrees. Now let's talk about why it's going to be rather humid and rainy. So the rain showers are going to be pretty scattered, but there's going to be forecasts up to an inch. Now why is this? We like to look at this thing called precipitable water values, or PWAT values. This is pretty much how much depth the water column has, or the amount of moisture in that water column up into the different levels of the atmosphere. Now, as you can see, we are above 2.0, which is usually considered a tropical humid air mass. That's what those pinks are, and that brighter orange pinkish, I'm not sure what color that is, south of us into places like Melfa, into Northampton and Accomack counties. That's pretty humid. I mean, that's a pretty decent air mass. With hurricanes, we get those values above 4.0. That's why you see very heavy rainfall totals. Now, places west of us, they have the same, but they should expect more rainfall. That's why they have those totals above 2 inches, maybe even 4 inches as well. As a result, the Weather Prediction Center, or the WPC, has issued a marginal risk for flash flooding for the area. Let's move that up a bit. A marginal risk. Let's move me out of the way. So, as you see, we do have a a marginal risk for flash flooding, while places west across the bay and north of us into much of Delaware is under a slight risk for flash flooding. The best chance is going to be in southeast Maryland along the northern neck in places like St. Mary's County and Prince George's County. Let's bring me back. Okay, there I am. Okay. Now as we go on, so that's tomorrow. So pretty much the basis for tomorrow is going to be some rain, mostly scattered, up to an inch. I'm not expecting an inch of rain, and better chances west and north of us. Now we are not in a huge drought, fortunately, like the west. We were in the drought, although the rain is always needed, especially near harvest time. So at the end of my briefings, I always like to look at weather nationally. Now, there's been a lot of action. In case you missed it, a a very large Arctic cold front moved from Canada, and it's positioned itself stationary in the middle of the country in through Chicago, and and it even brought snow to parts of the Intermountain West and Front Range. So, for example, if you so these are temperatures as of 7:30 p.m. So, whatever time you're watching, these have changed. So these were as of 7:30 p.m. today. If you live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, you are sitting in the mid to upper 80s. But if you go 2.5 hours west to Stillwater, Oklahoma, you are in the mid 50s, 30 degrees cooler. That's how strong this air mass was. This even led to over a foot of snow for parts of Colorado. Now you may ask yourself, is this pretty common at these parts? While we usually expect the first snowfall later this month, this is not really common. We don't usually see a foot of snow in parts of Colorado, and even any snow in parts of Wyoming and Colorado at this stage. Now, parts of Montana, you 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 got some snow, but because this is 24 hours, we don't really know how much snow you actually got because that time has been extended. Right. Now let's turn to our attention from snow to the fires out west, which is extremely historic. Now here's a satellite image I have pulled up from a really good site, and you can see all of the smoke, all of the haze in much of western California, and you can see those fires burning in the beautiful Cascade Mountains into Oregon, and some small fires in Washington. The main fires are in California and Oregon, but there are some smaller ones in places like Washington State, Idaho, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and even Wyoming, and Texas as well. Now, you probably saw some images of the Bay Area today, but in case you did not, it was literally bright orange. It looked like the planet Mars. Oh, let's bring my face back. Now, why was this orange, you may ask? Well, you know how when the sun sets and rises, and the moon as well, it's orange. That's because light is essentially scattered, and we see those dominant orange and reds, while when it's anytime but the twilight hours, it's bright yellow up in the sky because we see those bright yellow colors and there's not as much light to be scattered. Now, let's take this to more extreme values. When the sun sets and there's high clouds up or clouds at a good angle, the sunsets are usually pretty good and sunrises. Now, that's because the angle of the sun is pretty low when it rises and sets, and anything it hits will be lit up in either like red, orange, or pink. Depends on the light color that's most dominant. Now, let's take this to a more extreme value in San Francisco. Now, why were these images bright orange? There's so much smoke and dust particles in the air that all of the sunlight is capturing onto those dust particles. In June, we had a pretty extreme outbreak of the dust from the Sahara Desert, which caused pretty good sunsets across the Gulf Coast and Southeast. But when you take this to extreme values, such as wildfires, which loom more close by and contain a lot more dust than the stuff that comes from Africa, you get pretty bright orange colors. The sunlight, when it rises and sets, has a lot more things to hit than clouds, for example. That's why you see those orange images. All of those dust particles are hit by the sunlight, which creates otherworldly images. I also saw some stuff from parts of California which were yellow, which is like Titan, which is the biggest moon on, I believe, Saturn. Yes, it's Saturn, yeah. Now, there is some good news throughout all this bad news, fortunately. The SPC, they the SPC doesn't just issue weather for thunderstorms, they issue fire weather outlooks. Now, as you as you can see, there's usually throughout the last few days there's been a critical outlook or those outlooks in red. Now, tomorrow there is going to be a brief break, which will give those amazing firefighters a chance to contain these fires, such as a creek fire, which is 0% contained. These conditions has not been favorable at all to pretty much fight these fires at all. But there's also a red flag warning, which is going to expire tonight at 8 o'clock local time in California. So hopefully tomorrow does give the chance for these fire crews to contain these fires somewhat before it resumes in a couple days. Now, there is an upper level low coming to parts of the Pacific Northwest, Oregon included, which should bring some rain, which will definitely help the fire efforts. Any help is needed. Also, you can see there's some risk in the Colorado River Basin along the Nevada and California border with Arizona. Now, this is not so the fire season for California extends from now until end of November and into December, when those very common Santa Ana winds kick up in around the Los Angeles area. Now, a few years ago, we had the Thomas Fire, which was from the Santa Ana winds near Santa Monica, Santa Barbara. Saw all those images. Now, this season's pretty long. Unfortunately, the monsoon season wasn't great. There wasn't a ton of rain. That's why you see those extreme drought conditions. Now, there is some relief coming with those winds dying down in parts of the Sierra Nevada and California, and some rain coming to the Cascades in parts of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. Now, there is some relief, fortunately. Hopefully, these fires can be extinguished quickly because these are pretty bad. As always, I will have your next update at the same time tomorrow night, and stay safe.